The U.S. and China have struck a deal on climate change. The announcement came during the COP26 summit in Glasgow. Natalie Brand reports from the White House.
President Biden's climate envoy John Kerry detailed the surprise agreement that the United States reached with China to try and combat climate change.
We will work together to limit methane. Methane emissions, a greenhouse gas up to 80 times more destructive, more potent than CO2.
The two nations released a joint statement Wednesday saying they intend to establish a working group to meet regularly and focus on enhancing concrete actions in this decade.
Out of this cooperation, we expect acceleration of the rate of reduction.
Climate experts at the COP26 meeting in Scotland welcomed the deal, but also say governments need to pick up the pace in order to stay within the goal of only a 1.5 degrees Celsius temperature rise in the next 10 years. The UN Secretary General says that means reducing emissions globally by 45% by 2030.
Every country, every city, every company, every financial institution must radically, credibly and verifiably reduce their emissions and decarbonize their portfolios starting now.
President Biden is expected to meet virtually with China's President Xi as early as next week. In Glasgow last week, the president criticized Xi for not attending the climate summit.
The fact that China, trying to assert, understandably, a new role in the world as a world leader, not showing up, come on.
In the newly announced joint declaration, Beijing and Washington agreed to share technology to reduce emissions and do more to stop deforestation. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
For more, let's bring in CBSN contributor Isaac Stonefish. Isaac is also the founder of Strategy Risks. Isaac, give us a little more context as to why this deal with China came as such a surprise.
Relations between the United States and China have been, in a word, terrible over the last 6 months since Biden took office and even before. And we were not expecting to see signs of a rapprochement, of a thaw, and this really just came out of nowhere.
Well, earlier you tweeted, quote, countering China is far more effective and realistic strategy for fighting climate change than cooperating with it. What would countering China look like, and why are you skeptical of this deal?
Two reasons. One, they say politics is the art of the possible, and in Washington right now, being conciliatory towards China is not really a possible path for the elected men and women of the U.S. Congress. The second is that China has far more to lose with climate change than the United States does. It's by far the world's largest emitter of greenhouse gases. It's the world's largest polluter. And while I'm thrilled that both sides are explicitly saying that they're going to work to counter climate change, the U.S. has and might keep giving China a pass on its own climate policies, which frankly keep getting worse as opposed to better. So we're seeing a lot of window dressing. I think this plan is more window dressing. And we've seen China actually move closer towards coal, closer towards things that pollute the environment, as opposed to moving in the direction that it pretends to go to. So being more forceful, trying to push Beijing when possible on issues of climate, or frankly, even benign neglect, I think would be better for global emissions than what the United States and specifically John Kerry are doing.
Speaking of U.S. climate envoy John Kerry, he's been accused of sidestepping human rights issues in order to move the climate agenda forward. He even dodged a question from a reporter Wednesday about slave labor in China, saying it's, quote, not my lane. What's your take on that approach?
I think that's sad. I think it very much is his lane. I think what Beijing is clearly doing is saying, well, we want climate to be a part of the general bilateral relationship. And Kerry's trying to just be able to say, well, no, we're just focusing on climate. Unfortunately, there are coerced Uyghur laborers, Uyghur slave laborers in the Chinese northwestern region of Xinjiang who are part of the solar supply chain. Unfortunately, Beijing has put upwards of 1 million Muslims in concentration camps in northwest China. And the fact that Kerry thinks that in this very, very important role, it's his responsibility to just, quote, stay in his lane is shameful.
Well, President Biden is expected to meet with China's President Xi Jinping in a virtual summit on Monday. Besides hammering out this climate deal, what else is at the top of the agenda for the U.S. and China right now? And might those issues of human rights abuses be on it?
I think Biden will state that human rights abuses came out, or it'll somehow get leaked that Xinjiang or Tibet or Hong Kong was brought up in the call. It's always difficult to know if that actually happened. And usually we don't find out about that until the transcripts get declassified years or decades later. I think Taiwan is also going to be a major issue on the table. The Chinese Communist Party has long claimed Taiwan as an errant province, and the United States has long de facto agreed to defend Taiwan, or at the very least, keep the conditions alive for its de facto independence. And it's a very, very real flashpoint right now among China, the United States, and Taiwan. And so one would expect that that would come up, and the U.S. would reiterate its points about Taiwan. Chairman Xi would reiterate China's points about Taiwan. The other thing that might happen is Biden could be using this call to get a sense, however slightly, of the domestic power struggle that's happening at the top of the Communist Party. How likely is it that Chairman Xi gets a third term next year, next fall? Right now, analysts are thinking that it is quite likely that he will stay in power at least another 5 years, starting in 2022. But Biden might ask a question, and his analysts could use that to try to get a sense of what exactly is happening at the top of the Communist Party.
All right. Isaac Stonefish, thank you.
Thank you.